So welcome, and we're going to take a look at the inner critic of the type 4 and take a brief journey through its dynamics. So type 4, often called the individualist. I like the creative alchemist in addition to that, and known for being sensitive and introspective, and at their beautiful depth when their presence is a resounding hallelujah for being alive and present in the world. It's certainly, if you do any of the readings of Rumi, you get a sense of that kind of deep heart well of gratitude, overflowing loving kindness, connectivity, sense of everything belongs. And the healthy 4, when they're present, actually has a deep and buoyant heart. It's one that's capable of experiencing the agony and the ecstasy of human experience, and being able to bring a light of awareness to those ups and downs. And so with it is often a creative impulse to put into some sort of creative form their interior experience. And we have Stevie Nicks here, and Sarah McLachlan, Leonard Cohen, all beautiful archetypes for the best of the type 4, and for being able to express the suffering that human beings go through a creative artistry of their own. So we look at the type 4. And let's just take a look at a small cartoon here. And this writer has written a book called Meet the Author of My Miserable Life. And the parents are there saying, look, we're sorry. If we had known you were going to be a writer, we'd have been better parents. And certainly one of the jokes around the 4 world, and not always a joke, is a certain sense of, if I'd just gotten the right parents, I could have filled the creative niche I was born to inhabit. And of course, the healthy 4 has moved past that and is actually living from that place of authenticity. But there can be an overlay of suffering for other 4s if they haven't done the heart healing. So that said, we'll start off with a look at the potentiality of the 4, often referred to as the essence. And certainly these words get associated with the type 4 quite commonly: beauty, appreciation of beauty, being able to see beauty in everything, even in that which is ugly or even aversive. Depth, being able to see sort of the height and depth of any manifestation that they're engaging. And again, these are all concepts that point towards an experience that really is wordless. It's a state of being, but it does a nice job pointing. So intimacy, there's a sense for the type 4 when they're healthy that they do feel a profound intimacy with life, a connectivity with life, a sense of really belonging to life. Of being able to sort of go beneath the skin of reality into the underbelly, or that which is underneath it, where the mystery is, where it isn't so necessarily obvious to the eye. But nonetheless, when the type 4 is healthy, they're capable of profound joy and profound sorrow. And the stereotype of them being the sad, temperamental human being who you have to walk on eggshells around is certainly representative of the 4 when they're not in a place of health or healing. So for all the types, of course, you got to develop a personality shell, a way of being in the world that allows us to navigate it well and to take care of ourselves and hopefully functioning at our highest level. And so when the shell of the type 4 forms around this mystery of essence, or the innate capacity of the 4, the basic desire that shows up is to find my personal significance. And that's a healthy wish and desire. but underneath it is a sense that I am insignificant. I'm just generic. There's nothing special about me. And certainly my inner critic will be there to remind me of just that. So, what does the inner critic demand? I must be special, deep, sensitive, different, intuitive, self-aware, and all of that for the type 4, is accompanied with sometimes kind of a vague sense of, well, what exactly is that, right? And in the world of the inner critic, it doesn't have to be specific. It just has to generate a certain sense that you're not it, you're not deep, or you're not sensitive. So we'll just take a look at that as we go through it. And so, what can I not allow? What am I not allowed to have? And that's the sense of feeling ordinary, sort of being just like everybody else, no one in particular. I can't be without uniqueness, can't be generic. And so for the type 4, when there's this loss of connection with their essential capacity, a lot of our little 4s will say when they were kids that they just had this sense, a longing for something they couldn't put their hands on, and a sense that they were at deficit, that they were missing something that everybody else had been given. So there was a sense of like, I'm an outsider. I don't really get reality the way other people do. And I can't even begin to sense if there's anything significant about me that matters. So when we look at the levels 1, 2, and 3, of course, indicating that the 4 is in a state of health, open-hearted, inhabiting their body, able to develop a sense of quiet mind. So all 3 centers have the potential to run in unity and from a more open state. And so I'm at my best, call the type 4 the inspired creator. I take my love of beauty and intimacy and the mystery of life, and I create with it, and it's a joy. And also, I have this ability to be self-aware, to be able to sense the emotional wave that moves through me, to be able to really sense how I show up in the world. And along with it, there's often a kind of self-deprecating sense of humor around noticing, just the absurdity of myself and others around me, and a kind of gentleness around the whole thing. So very introspective, and at their best can be self-revealing, able to talk about what they're experiencing at their depth. And when they're healthy, they do it with skill and with clarity and with an eye on whether they're overwhelming anyone. So when I'm present as a 4, I can go deep when necessary, and I know when to hold off, when it's not going to be best for everyone involved, including myself. So at level 4, we say that the awareness level for the type 4 enters a constriction. There's a sense that I'm not feeling my uniqueness. When I'm at a healthy level, I feel my particular uniqueness, and I notice that everyone else has a unique radiance about them. But when that light starts to go out and my heart starts to close down, that feeling of being an outsider or misunderstood starts to crowd into my awareness. And so to try to, in a sense, prove to myself I'm still significant, type 4s often get very dramatizing, sort of inflating everything emotionally, making it bigger than it is as a compensation for feeling like they've disappeared in their own heart and soul. So I can start to rely on fantasizing what I would like to be to someday manifest this uniqueness that I seem to have lost, or my parents kind of gypped me out of it. So I can get into going interior, imagining this fantasy self, this awesome being that it pains me that I'm not there, but I can start living in that fantasy and then kind of hating myself for not manifesting it. But I start to disconnect from reality and go into this withdrawal. So at type 4, we say that the inner critic on down, from 4 down, gets louder and fiercer. You're lovable if you're original and different and you have deep feelings. Essence wound is that you're nothing. You're generic. You're cut off from the beauty of your own being. So, level 4, I tend to be manifesting this defensive structure of the 4 in a less intrusive way. So, I may not even notice I'm doing it. It's unlightly. I don't offend people as much. And then at level 5, though, is when the rubber hits the road and I really start to respond to this loss of contact with essence. And I start to get really hypersensitive, feeling like, everything people do around me is kind of a reflection of how they feel about me. So I really get self-absorbed and self-centered around checking in around, what did you mean by that? Why did you give me that look? And there's a way that I start going into my painful emotional feelings, trying to figure out who I am and starting to really analyze myself to death on a psychological level. And this is different than feeling, the emotions of sadness or pure hurt. This is like I'm going into a defensive posture where I'm really going into analysis mode and looking for, what is it that's caused this suffering and why do I feel this way and why did you do that? So it goes from bad to worse, of course, as I am more and more disconnected from my essential qualities, my sense of well-being as a little boy or little girl or as a young adult. And so in that sense of feeling like I'm an outsider, at level 6, it just feels like I got a bad deal. I didn't get the directions. And because I'm feeling so much suffering, I can't really even put into expression my creativity. And I might even get into this place where I feel like, I should be exempt from doing all the hard work other people have had to do to succeed because I'm, I get a little bit inflated. Like I'm a kind of precious jewel that really deserves to be put up on the center stage now. So come on, somebody come and save me. And so I can get into just a lot of suffering because on some level I know I'm missing my opportunity and I could drop into self-pity and just sort of bemoaning my fate and how bad I have it and how others don't have it as bad as me, etc. And so, level 5 and 6 on down, I'm not objective. I can't see the objective truth about myself. So it goes from bad to worse, from being self-pitying to hateful and spiteful, hating myself ferociously and then hating you for not attuning to me. It can be a sense of just more and more deep emotional torment. It's like I'm just caught in these waves of suffering, emotions, and misunderstanding, and can be pretty hard to be around. Again, down to level 7, 8, 9. I'm disconnected from what's real, and all I can feel is my particular suffering and my imagination around my suffering. And at level 9, despairing. And, all the types at level 9 can be despairing. But only to say that for the 9, that despair is just utter torment, hopelessness. So let's just take a look at this inner critic demand for the type 4. So again, it hits from both sides. You need to be special. Oh, guess what? You are so uniquely special and nobody gets you. You've been given a bad deal. What's wrong with these uncreative, dull people? 2, you're actually duller than the dullest. So the inner critic can hit from both sides, lifting me up, tearing me down. And then there's this sort of invocation that you've got to follow your feelings no matter what. It's like when I lose contact with my being, my essence, my sense of unique radiance, what happens is I feels like I don't have an anchor. I can't identify who I am. And so what I do have are my strong feelings. I can feel them. So I can get excited and high and then drop down to miserable lows. And what I notice is that it's the intense charge that gives me that sense that I'm somebody. The problem is those feelings change. And so who I think I am changes as regularly as my feelings. So, Critic says you got to be feeling no matter what, and negative feelings are not to be avoided. That's also a part of your signature. You must be different than everyone else. Well, good luck on that, right? I mean, if you look around, you realize we're all pretty darn uniquely different, but there's this sense of somehow I have to show up so distinctly different or I'm nothing. Either I'm like uniquely and fascinatingly different or I'm just nothing. So it's an extreme expression I end up getting called towards. And some fours start to look like a piece of artwork by the clothes they wear, by the tattoos they have, by their sort of style. It's like they're looking for their own autobiographical signature that you can see visually. And of course, don't be insignificant or generic, because if you are, then you're not lovable and you are unwanted. So, core belief, what my inner critic tells me is that you're nobody. You're an outsider, but you're also a rare gem. What a sad situation. You're so rare, nobody gets you. Well, but I take that back. You're actually nobody. You're an outsider. There's a reason nobody gets you. Or you're more flawed than others. There's something really a lot more flawed in you than in most people that makes you feel so different and weird. Even God doesn't see you. You're so flawed. You must always be emotionally honest. No one gets you. So there's this sense of the type 4 is almost like written into the script. If I'm feeling something, I must say it as it is. And I can get into this pattern as a type 4 of being inappropriately honest with people who can't receive my honesty, or as a way of trying to find myself. If I just blurt out what's going on, then I'm going to feel myself in a sense, resurrect my own sense of identity. So again, the opposite signals here: you're a rare gem, and you're genetic and fraudulent. So have a nice day trying to figure that out. And that's what the inner critic does. It has us sort of going back and forth between two polarities and keeping us, in a sense, occupied with things that keep us out of the present moment. So what do I do under the demands of my inner critic? Well, a lot of fours would agree with this. I succumb to feelings of abandonment. I feel like the universe has abandoned me. That also, there's a sense that not only have they abandoned me, but I've ended up being so crippled by it all that I've wasted my whole life. I haven't been able to get up and do anything creative. I'll have these passions and I can't follow through with them. And so there's a sense of, that when I die on my tombstone, it'll say, poor guy, he wasted his life. And if you're a type 4 down the levels, this is no laughing matter, right? So the passion we call envy, and envy is you got what I needed. You got the directions that I needed. And I got left out. And on a heart level, for the type 4s, it can, envy can just feel like I've just been stabbed in the heart. It's just an agonizing suffering and feeling that then, obviously evokes all sorts of interesting stories, type 4 envy stories that I can get lost in the movie theater of my mind and really go through a lot of suffering. But so the passion is envy, and the wake-up call we'll call fantasizing, which is where I begin to live in the fantasy of my envy, how they got it and I didn't, how they had the right teacher, they were born with the right body, the right looks, and I didn't get it. And getting caught in that movie screen of one's mental world and watching it and suffering and feeling agony over and over and over again. If I only had this thing when I was a little guy or a little girl, I'd be happy today. Or fantasizing myself doing something really wonderfully, but then being so unpresent that I can't take the steps to manifest it in the real world. So I will live in the fantasy of this illusionary success and then feel the suffering of not being able to touch it. So, a great heart-centered question: what moves your heart? What has deep meaning for you? What opens your heart to beauty, love, and loving connection with others? And do you remember to engage these things? Something to contemplate, especially if you're 4. Are you able to take action on any of these things? And if you can't, you got to get support.